How do? And welcome to part 4 of the electric TrakTrike project, which I'm making for EMF Camp 2024. If you've not seen the previous videos, they're all linked below. And in this video, I'm going to be making a sturdy metal box to house the two LiPo batteries that are going to be powering the TrakTrike. Let's make a start. Before I can put the battery pack in place, I need to know where it's going to be. And before I can do that, I need to know how the seat's going to be fitted. I bought this seat from AliExpress. It's a go-kart one, and fortunately the vendors provided the dimensions of the holes and where they are on the seat. So in that case, it was just a case of loading it into the CAD package and creating a plate that would allow me to fasten the seat to it. And I also put some slots on there so I can move the seat backwards and forwards. The seat mounting plate was cut from 4mm plate steel, and the arch rod was really helpful in getting the slots in position. The seat's going to be held in place with some flange nuts welded to the back of the plate. So I got these in position, fired the welder up, and then did some more atrocious welding. I cut a couple of lengths of 20mm box section steel and drilled some holes at each end to take some M8 studs. These are then going to be welded into the sections, and these slide nicely up and down in the seat mounting plate. And then these mounts were welded directly to the frame. That sort of gives me about 80mm adjustment distance with the seat, and that should be okay. So these are the LiPo batteries I'm going to be using. They're pretty big, and there's two of these. Before I started CADing anything up or designing anything, I decided to make a cardboard dummy of the batteries so I could put these into position on the frame and just sort of get a feel for where the final box is going to be. I tried this dummy battery in a few different positions. Over the tracks was completely out of the question, and in the end I decided just in front of the seat was probably going to be the best place. It's not too much in the way, and it seems like it's going to work. The battery box got two metal frames, each one's made out of 13mm angle iron. The bottom one is then got a load of 1.2mm steel plates welded to it, and there are some holes for some XT60 battery connectors. The top plate is the same, it's another frame of 30mm angle iron with a plate welded to it. The corners are going to have some angle iron on there too to strengthen them, and the top is bolted to the bottom of the frame with some welded flange nuts. There's also a couple of resettable fuses in there, and the batteries as well. The first thing to do was to get the angle iron onto the chop saw and cut some 45-degree angles. When with 4 of these made and the holes cut in the frame, just line them up on the welding table and start to fasten them all together. And now we've got the top and bottom frame, it's time to get the plasma cutter out and cut the sides and the top plates. I've never really cut steel this thin on the plasma cutter before, and as the centre part heated up it deformed downwards and the cut just failed completely. So I had to get the plasma torch out to clean it up. And so a second attempt with everything clamped down and plenty of support in the centre worked really well. I did a couple of test cuts for the XT60 holes just to make sure. Doing a couple of test cuts for the connectors up front was the best way to do it. It meant I didn't end up scrapping any large pieces of steel. Now I've got all 6 sides of the box cut out, time to weld them. The corners of the box are protected by some short lengths of angle iron. And a few quick welds secures the corners quite nicely. I drilled some holes in the top for fixing screws, and I welded some M4 flange nuts on the inside of the box to give me a thread. Inside the box there's an internal plate that lets me separate the batteries from the rest of the stuff in there, and this is just a strip of sheet that's being bent at 90 degrees at each end, and then I'm going to weld these to the inside of the box. I 3D printed some glands to keep the wires away from the metal of the box, and then started fitting these and the resettable fuses. The battery's going to be mounted to the TrakTrike frame with some 4mm flat bar that I need to bend in a couple of places to get past the lip caused by the lid. To do this, I went down to my local makerspace, Hackspace Manchester, or Hackman. They've got a pretty good metal working room here, and of particular interest to me was the bending machine they've got. It only took a few minutes to bend each one, and I made sure the angles were okay with the rotary protractor. I was very pleased with the way these turned out, and when I got back home I clamped them to the battery box and welded them into place. I deliberately oversized the metal brackets, so I just put them down to size when it was on the frame, then drilled through a hole to allow me to put a bolt through that was going to fasten each one. After spraying the box black, I thought it needed something to just spice it up a little bit, so I used some diagonal strips of yellow tape to make it look a little bit more interesting. So finally, it's time to put the battery in place and see how it looks. The position of the battery doesn't make it too difficult to get into the seat, and it's not too bad at all, quite pleased with it. The fisheye of the camera makes it look like the frame's actually bending a bit, but it isn't. Overall, I'm really pleased with this. So that's the battery box complete. The next part of the project is going to be a speed controller to control both motors from a single throttle. It's going to be an Arduino project, it's going to be a PCB, some C, some C++, so I'm looking forward to getting on with that. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.